Alright, hello and welcome. This tutorial is for first-time players of Dawn of Man. We're going to get started with Continental Dawn. I'm going to pick Forest River. Here we are, and we have pressed spacebar to pause the game. Let's use tab instead because that's going to show us resources and animals around the map. So anytime you want to pause the game from now on, just use tab. We're going to use Q and E to rotate. Alright, so what this game is about is managing your resources and managing your workload. So the way that we do that, first of all, is collapse this menu and reopen it as grouped resources. That way we can see exactly what we have and it's more organized. And the next thing that we're going to do is look at the F4 menu, which is the limits menu. And these are the maximum amounts that your villagers will collect. For example, they will only collect up to 10 flint. Knives are the only item that we're using flint for. So because we only have 5 adults, we don't need this much flint. Let's drop that down a little bit because we don't need that much for now, and we are going to do a lot of fishing, so let's go ahead and raise that. Using this menu is really important because if you find that your villagers are getting overworked, they are probably producing too many resources or they just have too much to do. And the way that we can manage that workload is either by clicking this or by pressing 7, and that will also bring up our workload menu. And this is where you can cancel tasks and see exactly what specific work your villagers are doing. The other menu that we want to keep in mind is the F2 menu, and that is going to show your overall welfare. If you want people to come to your village, you need to have high prestige, and that is how people are going to join you. You don't really expand through birth, which makes sense considering how very low the population was during this time period. People were not really giving birth that much. They're more likely to move to a favorable area and congregate there. Okay, so we want to keep all of that in mind, and the first thing we want to do is expand our housing because we are low on capacity and we're low on storage. My general rule is to have 3 to 5 spaces available for new villagers at any given time. And so we come down here to build and residence, but we find that this tent requires items that we don't have. We have raw skins that have not been dried yet. This tent needs dried skins. So there's no point in placing down the construction for that when we don't have the materials that we need. That's just going to increase our workload. What we do is we can either hit back or escape, or we can simply click outside of this menu box, and that will bring our menu back to production. And we're going to put down a skin dryer. In this area there are some sticks here we can see on the ground, but there are some not friendly animals nearby, so let's not send our villagers over there just yet. And that's why we leave this tab mode on a lot, so that we can see what kind of animals are in the area. The further that your villagers have to go in order to get resources, the more likely they are to be attacked by a vicious animal. This area looks a bit more safe. Now, to collect these, you either click or you double click, and that will select a wider area, and then we will gather that up. And you can see that our workload has already jumped up to 83% because we don't really have that many villagers. So most of them have now been tasked with collecting sticks. And we don't want to overdo it. So if we select too many of one item, we just hold shift and deselect until we have the amount that we want. Now, instead of just coming over here and double clicking anytime we need sticks, we're actually going to automate this. These work areas that you can place down, they're really helpful, but the more automated your work is, the less control that you are going to have over your workload. The first couple times I played this, I found that my workload was just going way up. I had over-automated all of these tasks by placing too many hunting zones, too many fishing spots, and so forth. This number is specific to that single work area. If we raise it here and then lower it in a different work area, then those numbers will stay separate. But this number is universal across all work areas. So if we increase that to 15 and we come to our limit menu, that number has also been increased to 15. And so you can actually control all of your work areas by adjusting amounts here on this menu. All right, so we will start collecting some more sticks. And once we get those skins drying, then we will place down the construction for that hut. Hunting is such a huge part of this game, especially before we start settling down with domesticated animals and farming. We're going to be really reliant on hunting for bones, for skin, and of course for meat, although there are other food sources around. For example, fishing is a good idea in springtime because that is when the river is going to refill the fastest. And so I always try to do my fishing early in the spring. Apart from that, though, we are going to do some hunting. And let's select anyone who has a spear, which is going to be her. And if we hold down shift, if we hold down shift, we can select both of these spear-wielding individuals. And we're going to send them after a nice, easy animal like this mouflon. Tasty. Oh, but it's old, so it'll probably be chewy. Before you hunt any animal, you want to ask yourself, is it part of a pack? What tools do I have? And how many villagers do I need to send after that animal? For example, you would need to send, I think, pretty much all of your villagers after this Megaloceros if you wanted to kill it, because it runs very fast. So even though it's not going to attack you, it's not a great choice for a first hunting expedition, because unless you kill it in the first couple of blows, it's just going to outrun you. And what will happen is your villagers will go very far from the village. Alright, so that is our first animal hunted. Well done. And I think the next animal that we're going to try and hunt is this bear. But because this animal is going to attack, I want to have everyone on hand to help with hunting this animal. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and add the defense bar. And normally you use this when your village is being attacked, but this is also a really useful way to gather together a hunting party so that you don't have to select villagers who might be very far away and so forth. What this does is it gathers anyone who can fight into the village center, and it sends anyone who cannot fight, which is the children, into their tents. And you can then send out your hunters. If you feel like there aren't really a lot of predators in the area, and you still want to go hunting, still have the, kids doing their chores and collecting sticks, you can turn off the alert. Just know that you then have to reselect that animal to be hunted. All right, so they're crouching, and hopefully they can kill it before it does too much damage. Yeah, all right. Not too bad. I don't think anyone's going to get an infection. Now, there's nothing stopping you from going after a mammoth right off the bat, in exchange for getting a lot of resources. However, somebody could get killed, and we don't have anywhere to bury them, and also it will upset the villagers, and then your welfare is going to take a hit. With the knowledge points that we've gained so far, I went ahead and got food drying, which is going to be super useful in the winter because there's less animals to hunt in winter, unless you want to hunt wolves. So it's really important that we try to do a lot of hunting in spring, summer, and fall. All right, and now that we have some dried skins, it's time to go ahead and place down that tent. You can use V if you want to change the look of it, if you're into those aesthetics. And what else? Oh, flint, yes, of course. Instead of just manually gathering up this flint, I think I am going to go ahead and set up a small collection area, but, we really don't need that much of it. So we'll just keep it at 3 for now, and we'll put a little spot there for them to drop it off at. Alright, now I did mention that I like to have space for 3 to 5 people at any given time. So I'm going to go ahead and place another tent down because we have the skins for it, we have the sticks for it. So let's go ahead, and now I'm not going to touch anything until our workload drops to 100% because there's just no point in piling up tasks for our villagers. So we'll just sit here, twiddle our thumbs. Let's see. You have a spear. You have a spear. Let's do this. Or maybe I'll go after that donkey. We'll see. Yeah, we'll go after a donkey. Hey, nice. And look at that. I think they're about to run back into my area. Nice. And look at that. Nice. Well done. Can we get this one as well? Ooh, I'm getting greedy. Yes. It's crossing the water. I love it when they go in the water. Thank you. Ooh, hey, that reindeer's injured. I wonder. Normally I would not go after reindeer, but they're so darn fast. But that one is injured, and I wonder if we can manage this. Hey, look at that. Well done. Early on in the game, we're gonna earn a lot of knowledge points for killing animals for the first time or building structures for the first time. But as we progress, it's gonna get harder and harder to earn those points. And one way that you can keep track of that is using the number 8 menu, and that's going to show you how close you are to gaining another knowledge point. So if we build one more tent, we'll gain a point. If we build 4 more skull poles, the more well-known your village becomes, the more traders are going to show up. However, if they have a low commission, that's a good time to trade with them. If they have a high commission, it's just not worth it unless they have an item that you really, really need. Anytime you update your technology, then that's a good time to trade out your old tech, and getting rid of it will compel your villagers to start crafting the new and better materials. And I think in exchange for that, why don't we grab some fuel so that we don't have to go and get as many sticks. We'll get some flint because we're still using that, and that's a pretty even trade. And now he can be on his merry way, and we will continue with our winter. We are so close to getting farming, and this is going to be a huge game changer because the overall shape of your village is going to change as we enclose it with fortifications. We're also going to change the way that we collect food. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I have a lot of lumber on hand for when we start building fortifications. The second thing is to finalize your layout of where you want your storage to be and your tents. Now is the time to rearrange your village if you're not happy with the layout, because these buildings are going to be upgraded into better structures, and we don't want to put a bunch of resources into that unless we're sure that that's where we want the building to be. What I'm also going to do is once this season has ended and we've unlocked farming, I'm going to go around and clear all of these gathering areas. Our workload now needs to be focused on 2 seasons, which is spring for planting. We want to make sure that we have lots of time to plant in the spring, and then in the fall we want to make sure that we have lots of time to collect the harvest. This means that towards the end of winter we want our workload to be pretty low because it's going to jump right up again in spring, and then towards the end of summer we want our workload to be very low so that we have time to harvest. And so once these have been collected and we've gotten all of that grain, then we're not going to worry so much about foraging anymore, and we're only going to go hunting when we need skin and bone. But now our primary food source is going to revolve around grain. For now, we're just going to put down a couple of fields, and that's going to give us enough hay and thatching in order to upgrade our building. When it comes to planting, we absolutely want to make use of the fact that we have different seeds to choose from, because if a blight comes in and it affects your emmer, then you will at least have some backup fields to rely on. And we're just going to plant some small ones for now, and we're going to plant 3 different kinds just for the time being, and we'll change these fields around as we finalize our village layout, which, you know, now that we have a centralized food source, we can definitely focus on raising up our population. So we have just gotten enough points to get our first tech after farming, and I think I'm going to go with thatching so we can start upgrading our buildings. Now, if you're playing on a harder mode, of course you will want to get fortifications first. Um, and the reason I like to do thatching first is because it's going to take up a lot of our hay. And I like to do that before we start domesticating animals, even though sheep especially are going to provide a lot of helpful resources. And the reason is because animals are going to eat up almost all of your hay during the winter. And so I like to already have had the buildings upgraded. So that way I'm not trying to feed animals and upgrade at the same time. And there's not much point in getting weaving because we haven't domesticated flax yet and we don't have wool from sheep. But if you want to raise your prestige, of course, we can start getting some megaliths together. If you do decide to go with that, then I would suggest getting these prepared for transport after you've dug them up in the spring, and that way your villagers will have spring, summer, and fall in order to move them, and they don't have to go far out during the winter to pick these up. So if you do decide to transport those, try to do it in early spring. Yeah, the first thing I'm going to go with is going to be thatching, and the way that I do upgrades is any building that's in disrepair, rather than use these resources to fix it, we'll just go ahead and get it ready for upgrading. As far as storage tents go, I think this one is in the worst condition. It's going to need repairing soon, so we might as well just mark that one for upgrading too. And thatching requires a lot of mud, and you can't ever have too much of that on hand. So I will raise that up to about 30, and it's going to take them a while to collect all the mud that we need. So I won't do any more upgrades for now, but I will keep an eye on anything that looks like it's about to fall into disrepair. Well, this is the first season that I've planted anything and I've already got a disease. Isn't that nice? So what we do is we double click to select as many as possible, and then we're gonna deselect the healthy plants and separate them from the not healthy plants. So we're gonna rotate in order to do that, and then we will simply remove that crop so that it does not affect the rest of the crops. And thankfully that was just for barley, and these other crops are safe. I have never played a game where you get hit with 2 blights at once, and let's hope it stays that way. Let's not give the devs any ideas. And that shouldn't happen too often, but as we plant more and more, we will see a blight every couple of years or so. So just be prepared for that, and as soon as you notice it, pause the game and get rid of those not healthy crops. We actually want to have a lot of sickles. There should be one for at least every adult, so that when it comes time to harvest, they don't have any difficulty in finding a harvesting tool. So let's keep that production, let's keep that production as high as it can be. All right, good. Yes, we definitely want to have a lot of sickles on hand, and also once we've had a disease, we just double click, remove it, and then replant it. And I already forgot which crop that was. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's barley. Let's make a bigger one. We've got more people this year. So actually, I don't want to put that there because that's where I'm going to start building walls. Yeah, okay, so another thing about fields is that when people attack your village, they're not going to attack your fields. They're not going to like set them on fire or anything. But again, let's not give the devs any ideas. So it is totally okay to plant crops outside of where you think you're going to put your fortifications. So I am going to put these a little bit further away from the village, and instead, once I get one more knowledge point, I'm gonna start building some walls. Although I have seen some very cool maps that people have done where they enclose everything inside of a wall, but I find that uses up so many resources. So let's see what, we have not built a granary yet. That's very important. I might just stick it on the other side of this storage tent. Yeah, all right, we'll put one there. We'll upgrade that. Yeah, we'll upgrade that. Two things to keep in mind. The more gates that you have, the easier it is for your villagers to get in and out of your village. However, when the invaders come, they will be drawn towards the gates. And so the less gates that you have, the less repairing that you have to do of all of the defensive structures around it. The first few times I played this, I built a wall in between these two separate villages, and it was totally unnecessary because at no point did anyone attack the gates on either side of the river. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're up against a lake or if you're up against a river, then it's actually not that necessary to build a whole bunch of walls. Alright, we'll put one there. We'll put another one right there. And we'll put another one right there. Get those built, and then we simply have to build some walls in between. It's not super complex, although, as I said, I've seen some very cool maps that people have made where they build very elaborate fortifications, and you can even double up on your walls and build double thick walls, which looks pretty cool, but it means a lot of deforestation. So, they've got those up pretty quick. I think we'll build, now get this, your people, they are so clever. They know how to walk between poles. And stick these here. And they will simply walk underneath them. It's great. It took me, oops, hello, raider. Oh, right, okay, it's two of them. And look at this. They gather at a gate because that's where the raiders are going to attack you. You can close the gates, but since our walls are not finished, there would be no point. You can actually build dummy walls, and the raiders will attack those instead of attacking your gates. I've done that a couple times where I build a wall, and sometimes the raiders will attack that instead of the gate, which is fantastic. We'll build some platforms for them to stand on and attack as well. Get those up, and then build a wall around that. No, we're not going to build anything else because it's spring, actually, and our workload has just skyrocketed. We have just unlocked our first underground mining option, which is perfect timing because I have run out of flint. I have just about run out of areas to collect them from. All we have to do is go to production, find the mine that we want. However, flint mines are the only mines that are under production. As we move into metallurgy, that is where we're going to find our mines from now on. So the last thing that I'm going to do for this tutorial is construct Stonehenge. And we've already got a couple of basic structures that used these megaliths. If we press 0, we come to our megalith menu. And this is going to show them to you in the order in which you dug them up. So for example, this is the first one that I dug up after building these structures. And so this is a great way to see where these are clustered. It looks like I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got a decent amount of them on this side of the map. There don't seem to be as many on the other side, so it makes sense to put our structure somewhere at least somewhat close to where all of those megaliths are so that they don't have to carry them as far. And it is almost spring, and so in addition to all the farming work that everyone has to do, we're just gonna take it easy with these, with preparing these for transport. We're just gonna prepare 2 or 3 of these at once, probably just 2 at once. If you feel like the dolmens are moving too slowly, remember that you can select a person at any time and have them go and help. We are just about to get our stone circle complete, And the amount of prestige that this is going to provide should be sufficient to attract a lot of people to our village. Our prestige is at 330 right now. And of course there's a freaking raider attack just before it's about to get built. Let's see. Okay, it's only 3. I'm not even gonna set an alert. I'm just gonna let them finish building Stonehenge. Nice. Anyway, what are we at? 390. Look at that. That's great. 60 prestige. Alright, well, so we have our stone circle built. We have plenty of prestige. We just basically need to build a lot more huts, and we'll have a pretty booming population. So long as we time our seasons properly and focus on grain production, then we should be pretty set. Sometimes, though, I like to wait until I have enough knowledge points to jump into the Bronze Age immediately after unlocking copper. And that is because in order to create bronze, we need both copper and tin. And I figure, why go through all of our copper deposits in the area and then jump into an era which also requires copper if we can instead just wait until we have the knowledge points to go straight to bronze. Because we're playing in normal mode, the raiders who are attacking us, their tech is going to be locked in with ours, and so they're not going to start bringing spears of bronze and bronze swords until we unlock that era. So if they're not going to get any worse, then there's nothing stopping us from just sitting in this cozy Neolithic era and just waiting until we have the knowledge points to jump straight ahead. And that way, these copper ore deposits will still be fresh and they will have plenty of copper in them. So that's just a thought. Of course, the rest is up to you, and I hope this tutorial was helpful, and good luck.